the Honorable Councillor Kwame Clement.
That's my policy right there.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Well, what's the matter with the Bassa Association of Columbus? I'm so delighted to be here tonight. I can tell you, you come from a great county. There being no county in many ways that has shaped Liberia culture and history like Bassa County. Except for Montserrat County, no other county has produced more presidents in Liberia history than Bassa County. And I asked you to tell me what other county has so shaped Liberia's culture, from the music, Sonny Guy Diabo, to the Sherman Sisters, to Teapot England. What other culture has so shaped the food we eat? I'm talking about the nice fufu and soup I had at Vice President Sonny Wade's house today. What other culture? And of course the smoked fish I had, a wonderful smoked fish I had with the cassava just now. Tell me, what other culture or what other tribe has so shaped Liberia's sports? And I'm sorry, I fan, but Marty Barumona champion. And so tonight on this sweet fall night in Columbus, I say we are all Bassa. Me, one Bassa guy. But I'm very happy to be here with you all tonight, Mr. President, officials and members of the Bassa community of Columbus, my fellow Liberians, ladies and gentlemen. We gather here tonight with heavy hearts, giving the news about the Ebola virus that's now ravaging our country. The latest news from Monrovia and Liberia says things are getting better. In our typical Liberian way, we can all say we cross our fingers and hope they do get better and improve very quickly. But the Ebola virus is the latest tragedy to hit our country, which in many ways is bedeviled by extreme poverty. Any way you cut it, any way you measure it, Liberia ranks among the poorest and least developed countries in the world. The facts and statistics speak for themselves. All of the indices of development show or paint a very big picture. Infant mortality, maternal mortality, literacy rate, lifespan, all miserably low. And that begs the question, how did that come to be? And so tonight I want to speak to you on the issue, Liberia, why are we poor, what we can do about it. It is easy for us to blame our current condition on the war and the coup. Oh, certainly. Oh, obviously. The war had a tremendous impact. It dragged, it cast literally a wet blanket on our economy. But before the war, things were bad. Let us resist the temptation to romanticize the past and think that before the war, everything was sweet and glory. No, even before the war, we were mired in deep and biting poverty. And that again begs the question, why? Many people have advanced differing theories as to what explains our current economic circumstance. Some people say we are poor because we are a bunch of lazy people, and we have a culture that does not value hard work. I disagree vehemently. From the time I was a little boy of 4 years old and we wake up in the morning at about 4 o'clock with my mom to see her load her self-made mud oven with bread she had made from the night before, I knew the hard-working nature of the Liberian people. From the time I was 10 years old, living in Ganta, Nimba County, and saw women with heavy loads, as we call it, walking miles and miles from neighboring towns, Dinkama, Tonklewin, Bassa, Blackettstown, into the center of Ganta to sell their goods, I've known women who work hard to eke out their living, using their meager income to send their children to school. From the time I was a young reporter starting at 19 years old and traveled the length and breadth of Liberia, from Kwendu in the north to your Puta Grave in the northeast, and to Juazon in the southeast. I've seen Liberian men fell great trees using only cutlasses fueled by raw human strength. So please don't tell me Liberians are lazy people. So what explains our circumstance then? Some people say it's our climate, the hot tropical climate, and the blazing sun that saps our energy, and the rain that leaches vital nutrients from the soil, making it difficult to engage in successful farming. But I say there are countries in Latin America and Southeast Asia and other places with the same kind of climate. They're not very rich countries, but they're not poor as we are. So I put the question to you then, what explains the economic morass in which we find ourselves as a nation? Some people also say it's because our leaders, that they don't know better. They don't know how to devise the right mix of policies to lift us out of poverty. However, when we think about our leaders, generally they were not ignorant people. The moniker of our present leaders speak to the fact that she's not ignorant, Harvard-trained economist. So I know at this point, with justifiable exasperation, you're saying to yourself, well, so Kwame, tell us then, you've debunked or you've attempted to debunk all of the various explanations as to why we are poor. Well, I say the answer is obviously, straightforwardly simple. And we all know the answer instinctively. But because of the scale and scope, the complexity and enormity of the economic challenges we face, it is not unreasonable that we want to find complex answers to the problem. But you know the answer, and you would agree with me. At bottom, we are poor as a people because since the founding of our country, we've been ruled by an insular, narrow, inward-looking political class made out of different members over time that have amassed power to use for itself, to amass wealth for itself at the expense of the people they rule. That class has built an economic system that is as exclusive as the political system they've built. And it's not unique to Liberia. Look around the world. Of the more than 200 countries in the world today, the overwhelming majority are poor, maybe a little better off than Liberia. And in those countries, their lives are defined by an exclusive, narrow political elite, an exclusive, extractive economic system that see people only as a source of revenue. They fail to make the necessary investment in health and education, no roads to bring goods to market, no education to improve the skills and tap the energy and potential of the people, no viable health care to protect the people from illness and make them productive citizens. And what all too happens in those countries is this. Others believe that then the only way they can gain access to power and economic wealth is to maneuver those in power out of power. So there are power struggles, coup and counter-coups, civil wars, and eventually a collapse of the state that will return absolutely, literally, to the state of nature, where life is nasty, brutish, and short, literally so. Does that explain our circumstance? Well, let's apply the facts to us. From the time of our founding in the 1820s and then independence in 1847, we've been ruled by a small elite. The members of that class have changed over time. There have been constant power struggle, the struggle between the Republican Party, led by Joseph Jenkins Roberts in the 1870s, and the Two-Week Party, led by Edwin J. Roy, that resulted in the death of Roy, were one of the first manifestations of that struggle. Then, there was a struggle in the mid-1950s between Tupman and the Monrovia elite, the Monrovia establishment. Then we had the coup. Then there was the descent into hell, the Civil War. Then there was the chaotic, state-sanctioned, free-lance, buccaneering years of the Taylor regime, and where we are today. My friend, that's our history. And so you may ask me, oh, Kwame, sure, we may have rulers who've been insular, who've monopolized political power, show there being no constraints around the exercise of their power, or show the political class as being exclusive. But is that why we poor? Aren't we poor just because we don't have the money to put into roads and schools and hospitals? I beg to differ. Well, we can point to the excessive salaries that some are paid in Monrovia, to the fancy cars people drive, money that could go into schools and hospitals. But the problem is more complex than that. There's structural impediment to growth and economic development that flows from having an exclusive political class. Take, for example, the existence of monopolies. Monopolies stymie development and innovation. The monopolist has a captive market. He doesn't have to innovate. He can sell at super competitive price. He can give you shoddy product you're forced to buy. He's the only guy in town. Other people who want to enter the market and bring innovation and creativity are kept out because the monopolists control the market. Isn't that what we see? And why do we have monopolies? Because people in the leadership class can be paid something by the monopolists. For many years, we had one company producing cement in Liberia, cement. Why for many years we had few or one people giving license to input rice into our country? Why for all these years we have one company, LPRC, bringing oil into the country? Why for many years we have one company, LPMC, as the sole buyer of produce, coffee and cocoa to be exported? How can there be economic growth without competition in the marketplace? And there are other structural problems. Yeah, in America, if you're credit worthy, if you pay your little bills on time, you can get access to loan. You can use the equity in your house to get access to loan and set up your little business. You can get mortgage to buy a house and improve your life. Do we have that in Liberia? The banking system not competitive. People in power can get access to loan. But you, the ordinary people in Liberia, no way to get access to loan to invest in business, to grow the little business. Whenever you give the Liberian woman a small chance, there's the story of Kebesumo, who with a special grant from Goldman Sachs was able to get loan and develop her palm oil business. She's been exporting oil into Boston and the rest of the world. She sent her kids to school. She got about a 4th grade education. She's built a home. She employed people. That's what happens when you have a competitive banking system that can lend capital at reasonable rates. We don't have that in Liberia because of the structural impediment, the lack of incentive for the political leaders to create that kind of system. There's even more. The land. Everywhere you go, land is the ultimate source of wealth. Look what happened to land. Tribal owned land. The big concessions come to buy a huge tract of land owned by tribal people. Government officials propose to negotiate on their behalf. They sell the land at dirt cheap prices, pocket the money. Tribal leaders, tribal people who own the land giving virtually nothing, or little. They're told, oh, you will get jobs with the company, Firestone or whatever. Oh, sure, they get jobs, but they pay pittance. And so they become literally serfs, peasants on their own land. A form of modern day feudalism. My friend, how can there be an end to poverty in such a setting? And let me say, this is not class struggle. This is not class warfare. This is not about socialism and capitalism. I believe in a free enterprise system. But for the free enterprise system to work, there must be equality of opportunity. You can never guarantee equality of outcomes. There will be some who will do better than the rest of us because they're smarter, they work harder, they have certain gifts, certain talents, certain proclivities. So we can't guarantee outcomes, but let us guarantee equal opportunity. Yes, let us guarantee equality too before the law. Let everybody be treated as equal. How can you try? How can you express yourself? How can you pursue your dream, your goals, your ambition, and in the process create wealth for yourselves and wealth for others when you stymie by a moribund judicial system that applies the law selectively? So, how do we resolve the problem? Oftentimes, we're looking for a leader, one leader, who we think will solve all the problem. We look for this leader in shiny armor, on a white horse, that will bring us the new day. My friends, I say, unless we change the fundamental institutions in our country, no one leader will solve our problem, for he will be co-opted. For he will be co-opted and invariably join the very forces, the vested interests, whose workings have left us at the bottom of the economic ladder since our founding as a country. So to change this, we must change our political and economic institutions so that power is diffused through the country. There is no concentration of power in only one person or any one institution, so that politicians are so accountable that they have an incentive to work on behalf of the people who employ them, the Liberian people. And where do we begin? I dare say we begin at the epicenter of power in Liberia. At the very top, the office of the presidency. There's so much power vested in the office of the presidency. So much unbridled power by our constitution, for that matter. So that whoever goes there, whether he's good or bad, no matter what he means, that excess of power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely. And even if the president is clean and perfect, the people who work for him, to whom he delegates that absolute power, are likely to abuse it to maintain the status quo from which they benefit. So what do? We begin with lessening some of the presidential appointment powers. Or sure, under the Constitution, the president has and should always have the power to appoint his cabinet. The cabinet works for the president. The president should always have the power to appoint judges, to appoint ambassadors. But what if we say that from assistant minister downward, the president does not appoint them, that they are career civil servants position? Why? Besides lessening the appointment powers of the president and lessening the concentration of powers in the office of the presidency, doing so will ensure that we have a core of professional career policymakers who are insulated from the political process, so they can make policies in the interest of the Liberian people without fear that they will be fired because they affront somebody in high office. It will also ensure that there is continuity in government, at least continuity at the policy-making level, because whatever president comes, those career civil servants from assistant minister down will hold their office because they cannot be fired by the president. They maintain their position for which they are qualified as long as they do their job. What else can we do? The president now appoints all the members to all of the various commissions: the National Election Commission, the Audit Commission, the Civil Service Commission, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Purchasing and Procurement Commission, you name them. She or he, whoever is president, appoints everybody. What if we say, for example, Mr. President, you will still appoint the chairman and two other members, so there are 5 members of the commission, you will appoint 3. But the other 2, we leave it to civil society groups, or maybe to the opposition that came second in the election, to appoint those members. Why do we do that? In addition to lessening the concentration of power in the office of the president, it will also ensure that we benefit from the perspective of other people, the opposition, as we make policy. It will also ensure that the opposition believe they are stakeholders in our country. It will contribute to national unity and reconciliation. What else can we do? We should seek to diffuse power away from Monrovia into the counties. And for this, I've finally come to the conclusion that it is necessary that we elect our superintendents. Why? Superintendents work for the people. If they are elected by the people, they will be more responsive to the people's needs. The people are best suited to determine who can best serve them as superintendent, rather than somebody seated in Monrovia. I also think we should begin to be electing our city mayors. When I grew up in Ganta, city mayor's election was about the most exciting election. Right now, other than the president, legislators, nobody else elected in Monrovia. or in Liberia, if we begin to elect our city mayors, the cities will serve as a laboratory for new political talents to emerge. More importantly, the cities are the political units closest to the people. So let the people elect who will rule them. Also electing city mayors will ensure that as we diffuse power from the president down to the county, we also diffuse power away some from the county and the superintendent towards the cities. We should also look to begin electing town commissioners. And this is not just election for election's sake. The idea here, besides diffusing power away from the center, is that when people elect their leaders, the leaders are then forced to be more responsive to the people's needs, work better in their interests. Let's also elect school boards. School boards are elected here. They will have more decision. They will have a say in how schools are run. It will also serve as training ground for the emergence of new political talents. But we must do more. A fundamental premise of representative democracy is that the people will elect their leaders. A natural corollary of that is that as frequently as possible, the people will pass on the performance of their elected leaders. You know, we take tests all the time. You don't take tests one time in a year. And the point I'm making here is that how can you elect somebody for 9 years term? They're elected for 2 terms at 18 years. They're done. How can they be responsive to the people's needs? Let's cut the terms of senators. Let's cut the terms of members of the House of Representatives. Let's even look to cutting the terms of the president. And what else can we or should we do? What else can we or should we do? I suggest we put more powers in the hands of the people again. You see, the legislature passed laws, so all of these things we want to do, if we're proposing them and they're against them, they will never be passed, for example. So, I bet you do it here. There's something called Balla's initiative, where the people, there may be a requirement. You may require 10,000 signatures or 1,000 signatures. And once you get that, then you put an issue on the ballot. Should we reduce the terms of senators? And then you vote for it. And if it is done, bingo. Right now in our system, to reduce the terms of senator, you got to go to the Senate and the legislature to approve that constitutional amendment. By 2/3 vote, are they going to do it themselves? So let's vest the people with power to have ballot initiatives. Let's also allow for recall. You voted in for 9 years or 6 years. But before that 6-year end and you figure you're not doing well, you say, okay, if 100,000 people say you must come back right away before your 6-year term ends for another election to move you, then there will be election held, and if you lose the election, you out. Recall of elected leaders. Let's see how we can put that into our Constitution. And there are many other things we can do, but the fundamental idea here is to reform the institutions. Every time we look into trust the people who are in there, we are good people, we think. But once we get there, the centrifugal forces of the institutional process gravitates us towards what is being done. And so it is difficult to break from that pattern. It's going to be hard work. We should also look to reform the legislature. Well, we should help the legislature. If you look at our Constitution, the legislature is the first branch of government. It comes first in the Constitution. Oh yes, we say 3 separate but equal branches of government. But in the law and in Latin, there's something called primus inter paribus, first amongst equals. And the legislature, by design, is the first of the 3 branches. But for a variety of reasons, the legislature is at a disadvantage. The president controls the huge bureaucracy with all of the experts and professionals. The legislature have none. So we should look to provide the legislators with experts, agricultural experts, to run the agricultural committee, health experts. What this would do, it will allow the legislature to better craft legislation, to better examine legislation the president proposes, to examine the budget the president proposes with a more critical eye. But ladies and gentlemen, these are the challenges we face. And they're going to be difficult if we want to implement them. There are vested interests that will fight tooth and nail. But other societies have done it. You know, Britain, from where this country came from, it looks long. But it wasn't until the glorious revolution of 1688, when the broad coalition of merchants and noblemen and traders and craftsmen formed to challenge James II, who was insistent on saying, I want to be an absolute king, controlling all power. And who they called was his son-in-law, William III, from Holland, married to his daughter, said, come, this man know what he wants to do. You come and lead us, but if you come in, promise, you will let power rest with Parliament. And he came. When James II fled, and what they call the Glorious Revolution was ensued. Power then went to Parliament. They did away with monopolies. They put in place other reforms that set in motion a series of events that triggered the Industrial Revolution and the growing emergence of wealth in Britain, setting Britain on the path of prosperity that it is today. So what these countries have done, they've used their critical moment to change the course. Our critical moments have come. The coup, the war. I don't think we've used them. Can we use the critical moment now to make the necessary changes that will set us on the path to broadly shared prosperity? And besides reforming our political institution, we have to look to reform our economic institution. Let's put in place a competitive banking system that will make loans affordable for credit-worthy Liberians. Let's put in place a mortgage system. You know, it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, after the Great Depression, that established these series of agencies, the Federal Housing Authority, Fannie Mae and the like, that made mortgage loans affordable for the average man. And that sparked economic growth. If you buy a house, you're employing carpenters, masons. You got to furnish the house. So you're employing furniture maker. You got to put a refrigerator there. So you're buying from refrigerator sellers. What the point is, you're stimulating economic growth and development. Let's put in place a similar system in our country. Let's put in place a truly credible educational system. You get what? 0% fail out of 30,000, or 0% pass out of 30,000. The University of Liberia entrance, that can't be the fault of the students. It's got to be the fault of the educational system. Let's reform it. Let's give students the skills they need to be marketable in the job market. And this is going to be hard work. But it's something we have to do if we want our country to change, if we want to end poverty. And you know, nowadays there's deep skepticism, even cynicism among Liberians when you talk about politics. And justifiably so, given what has happened over the years. You talk about politics and, oh, my friend, you can't be cynical. This is our country. You got to be involved. Let us resist the notion that we mere bystanders in the grand sweep of history. No, we can change history. We can be players. So I implore you, find a cause you believe in. Find something you champion. Find a party you want to belong to. Find a politician you want to support. But for heaven's sake, don't be a bystander. Time is running out. And as we enter this spring, there will be heated political debate. There will be heated political debate, but let it be civil. And let us realize nothing is wrong with moderation and compromise. Not the moderation and compromise that sacrifices core principle on the altar of political convenience, but the moderation and compromise that realizes the guy who is our opponent is not our enemy. That politics need not be a zero-sum game where somebody wins all and somebody loses all. That at the end of the day, our common interest is Liberia. We may have differing views of how to get where we want to get to make Liberia better. But at the end of the day, we have one common objective, to make our country a better place. So let the debate be vigorous. Let the rhetorical blows land hard, but let us be civil. And let us be respectful of others. And I tell you one more thing. As you do this, there will be many critics. Oh, they'll call you names. They will say the worst thing. But to paraphrase Theodore Roosevelt, credit does not go to the critic. Credit goes to the man in the arena. whose face is marred by blood, dust, and sweat, who strives valiantly, who errs and errs, because he realizes that there is no effort without shortcoming and failure, who knows, who seeks the triumph of great achievement, but also is willing to sip from the bitter cup of defeat, because he knows that only by so doing can he drink lustily from the sweet cup of victory, who dares to fail, knowing that at least if he fails daring greatly. Credit does not go to the cold and timid souls who stand on the sidelines and point how the strong man stumbled, or how the fighter should have thrown the blow or evaded the blow. Credit goes to the man willing to be in the arena, who risks his all for a cause he believes in. So join the arena, my friend. Join the arena for a better Liberia. The moment is too great. Our country demands it. At the end of the day, that is our journey. That is our cause, to build a truly sweet land of liberty by God's command. I thank you very much.